Okay, so we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and if I can get a roll call.
Commissioner Laird.
Present.
Commissioner Milne.
Here.
Commissioner Nicolason.
Here.
Commissioner North.
Here.
Chairman Friel.
Here. And could we do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Realize it's a little early for some people to be doing that, but. Okay, we'll start off with the investment discussion. We have two groups here today to talk to us in reference to what they can do for us for the 94 million now that we have, and then we can have a discussion for direction going forward. So either group, I don't really care who starts, so. Okay.
All right, Commissioners, thanks for taking some time this morning to discuss the investment proposal for the county funds. My name is Cole Montgomery, born and raised here in Casper. We work for Stiefel Nicholas and Company under MHM Wealth Management, and I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves as well.
Kyle Henriksen, born and raised here. Wife's from here, went to UW, moved back after a short stint in Colorado when I decided we needed to get back to the right place. Planned on staying here for a long time, but been here 12 years, partnered with Kevin Murphy.
My name's Grant Murphy. My dad's Kevin. He can't be here today. He's doing a charity golf outing. But I joined the team here in August after spending about 3 years in Chicago after going to school out in Indiana, and I'm glad to be back.
All right, so in your packets there, we have some investment proposal material in there. High-level things to start, just to give a little recognition on some work that we've done previously. On page 5 are some other public entities that we manage funds for. You'll see Public Lands Council, Wyoming Stock Growers, and Boys and Girls Club of Central Wyoming, to name a few. If you would like any more information on any of that stuff, we can always provide that after the meeting. A little background on Stiefel. Stiefel's been around for a little over 130 years. Their motto is to safeguard funds and invest them as if they were our own. We take pride in that, making sure that we're not being overly risky in regards to public funds specifically. Stiefel has great financial backing. With the most recent retail banking crisis, Stiefel pushed through very well. We've got $11 billion in cash outside of client assets, so financial backing is strong. I know that there's been some hesitancy with some of the WyoStar programs and kind of concentration of the county funds within those programs, so know that you would not make up necessarily anywhere close to the lion's share that you did of those WyoStar funds. If you keep moving through on page 8, we've touched on kind of what we know about the situation with the funds from the sale of Banner and how the funds came to be in the county's hands. With that about $98 million that you had mentioned, we would like to have further discussion on, if there's any discrepancy with that WyoStar 2 fund that we did not see through our due diligence. We saw that it was heavily invested in longer dated corporate bonds and cash, and that's in large part why there was quite the downside last year for the county funds. Working through the investment proposal, we would work with the committee and the commissioners to find out what type of cash flow needs, cash reserves, immediate cash on hand that you would need for capital projects, distributions, and so forth. Also, we know that there is legislation in the works in the form of Amendment A. We would have further discussion with the commissioners on if what the sentiment was around that Amendment A, and if it was going to be adopted by the county itself, or if we were just going to leave that to the state. So that would then kind of lead us to further discussion. But if you flip to the next page there, our approach is going to be in a multi-step fashion. Immediately, the first step would be to take that cash and put it into short-term, very conservative instruments, majority of it being in cash, and I will let Grant Murphy go into a little more depth about the individual investments themselves. But then once we were able to have those further discussions, find out capital needs, cash flow needs, everything like that, we would then work to invest the funds into a little longer dated portfolio, generating long-term yield and interest that would be competitive to further the county's agenda and be able to take them where they need to be. So I'll pass it over to Grant Murphy to kind of go through what those investments are going to be.
Yeah, so if you flip over to the next page, you'll see kind of step one in our recommended process. And the goal there is to get your money working right away. So this is before we kind of fully understand the county's needs. We just want to get cash earning money. If you look at the top line in green there, it's Stiefel Smart Rate. So Stiefel owns 2 banks, and each bank is fully insured up to $250,000 in FDIC insurance. So that's how we have $500,000 there, earning 4.5%. For cash deposits beyond that, we recommend our Stiefel Insured Cash Sweep program. And what's nice about that, we partner with different banks to sweep $250,000 to each bank, and we get that fully insured up to $100 million. So the one caveat there is you take a little bit of an interest hit and you only make 4.15%. Below that, we recommend 2 money market funds. Both of those are approved by Wyoming Statute 94831, and both are solely invested in treasuries or government agencies rated AAA. And then, so the $20 million right there is fully liquid cash that we could have available to you next day. Then below that, we recommend buying some individual treasuries. And the reason we recommend buying these is we can get a little higher yield, and we don't believe as of now that the county needs over that $20 million in immediate cash assets. So this, just adding a little duration there, increasing the yield, and this portfolio day one can start getting an annualized rate of about 5.22%. All of it's fully backed by the government or FDIC. And then if you go into the next page, and as Cole kind of mentioned, this will be more of a fluid investment portfolio. This is not our set in stone recommendation. We'd work with you guys over the coming months to kind of get this in a better space. And we went with $100 million on this portfolio. We understand now it's 94, which can be easily interpreted. But to start with the cash management portfolio, so with assets over 50 million, we can partner with a company called Ziegler Capital Management, and they have a short-term cash management strategy that you'll see more on the next page, but the duration on that is average of 0.44 years, so under 6 months, super short-term liquid, and we could also get that cash to you the next day if you request it. Below that, we recommend buying more treasuries. Treasury yields are highest they've been in the last, I want to say 10 years. Below that, we have government agencies, and our favorite government agency is Ginnie Mae. Ginnie Mae's deals with lots of veterans associations, and those loans are fully principal and interest protected by the federal government. So there's really no concerns there. All these securities are AAA rated. Below that, we recommend buying some certificates of deposit, and Stiefel has the ability to shop the country for CDs from many different banks. So all $5 million that we recommend allocating to CDs, we'd only allocate $250,000 to each individual bank. So those yields there are weighted average across many different banks, fully FDIC insured. You'll notice that the yield on this portfolio is only 5.03%. The reason that's lower than the last page at 5.22% is because we add some duration here, so we're buying some 2, some 3, some 5-year treasuries. Our thought process behind that is we can lock in these longer term rates today that we're not sure if they'll be there next year or 2 years from now. So even though they're lower rates, we want to lock them in while we can. Moving on to the next page, this is kind of just an in-depth show of that Ziegler Capital Management and our cash management strategy. So you'll see on the right, it's all U.S. agency and U.S. treasuries, AAA rated. The average duration there is only 0.44 years, so it's very liquid. Everything's AAA rated. Yeah, and we're happy to answer any questions if they come up. The next couple pages are not as pertinent right now, but we just want to give our thought process on Amendment A. if legislation is passed, we do think corporate bonds and even some stocks will be very valuable for this portfolio, but with that in mind, I don't want to delve into that too now, given that that's a ways out. The next 2 pages really kind of express our rationale behind buying stocks and bonds.
Yeah, I'll just kind of chime in and then open up to questions, be cognizant of time, but I think something that we touched base on outside of this is the strength of Stiefel. Stiefel's been around for 133 years. We have a very good local presence in the team that we have built, and put a lot of thought and effort into who was joining our team. So we have, a guy that has 42 years of experience. I've been here going on 13, adding new people. So I think, it's something that's important to us is having the same faces in front of you, the same team behind you, so that we can work together. I think, we really try to strive to build a practice where we're teammates and work with partners rather than somebody working for somebody else. That's how we can really dive into and get the best results with a stronger relationship. So again, then with Stiefel, I'll say that we are an investment firm. That's what most people think of us as, but we are a bank as well. Unlike a lot of other financial institutions, and I'm not knocking which is right or wrong, but we are an investment firm that bought banks to help our clients, and that's where we have the banking expertise. But we started off as an investment firm as well. So I think it's a kind of a unique situation that has really benefited our clients. With that, we can step down, or if there's any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
What are your fees?
Yep, that's a good question. So all the yields that are shown here are net of fees. So the fee on that longer dated portfolio to us is about 0.2%. And all the yields there are net of fees. So if you want to look at that, and then Ziegler Capital Management, right now they have an additional 0.15% fee. So that cash portfolio, the total fee on that is 0.35, and everything else is a flat 0.2%. On the first portfolio, the cash in the door proposal, you'll see that 20 million in cash assets. There are no fees coming to us on those assets. Going to anyone. Yep, that's correct. So Federated and Fidelity get, I believe, a 0.25% fee, but all those yields are net of that. The Stiefel Smart Rate and Stiefel Insured Cash Sweep program, we do not get any fees on.
Okay, thanks.
Peter?
Mr. Chairman, thanks for coming in, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Going down the path of, I guess, the diversification concept, would you recommend that the entire fund portfolio, which is roughly $95 million, be placed with one firm, placed with multiple firms, or in part managed by our treasurer's office and then placed with one or more firms? Can you give us your thoughts on what we ought to do in that respect?
Yeah, so we get this question asked all the time, and a lot of it comes down to personal preference. We're not going to be the people that will pressure say we want all the money. I can walk through some benefits of having, if you go through this portfolio, while it's with one team, it's diversified amongst a bunch of different investment strategies. On top of that, you're not just working with the local Stiefel teams, local Stiefel team MHM here. You're working with a bunch of teams in our back office that have a ton of horsepower as well, and then our institutional team as well. The problem that you sometimes see when you work with multiple teams, and there's ways to overcome this, I'm not saying it's unachievable, but you almost have two people competing, and you have to be very, if you do that, I encourage the commission to be very transparent, which you have to be anyways, on what is owned, because you can see in here, we put a lot of thought into the allocation, what percent's in this, what percent is in this, even down to 3-month treasury, 6-month, 12-month treasury. If you're not transparent, you can start to screw up that allocation, where you're going to be too overweight in one area and not really fully meeting the obligations or goals of the portfolio. So again, it comes down to a lot of personal preference, but I can make an argument or point out reasons why we think it's fine at one spot.
Thank you.
Any other question?
I was just reading what happened, what one person says has happened to our loss, and he says that this, Wildstar buys investments that we are not permitted to purchase, nor would we even advise doing so in a pool like that. That is why they don't receive the AAM rating from Standard & Poor's. They have purchased very long-term investments in Wildstar 1 and 2, in some cases with maturities that go out several years, subjecting them to significant interest rate risk. When interest rates rise, the value of bonds goes down, and if there are redemptions, they have to sell those bonds at a loss. Because interest rates have risen significantly, the investments in the Wildstar pools have decreased in value. Wildstar 2 lost around 5.8% in July of last year and posted a negative return in the spring of 2020. As well, neither Wyoming Class nor any of its sister pools in other states have ever posted a negative yield or lost money. By contrast, the weighted average maturity in our pool is 55 days right now by law, and in order to keep our S&P rating at AAAM, we must invest in only short-term maturities with the highest investment grade ratings. He goes on. Do you have any comment on any of that?
Yeah, so to us, within the Wyoming statute that you're obliged by, you cannot invest in corporate bonds at the moment, but you can invest in these liquid government investment pools, which Wildstar 2 is. And the State Loan and Investment Committee stipulates that Wildstar 2 can only invest in corporate bonds or cash, which is ironic to us, because through the Wyoming state statute, you are unable to invest in bonds, but you can invest in this kind of secretive pool that only invests in bonds. Within that, it was a lot of longer dated corporate bonds. So the longer a bond goes out on the maturity curve, the more risk it has to interest rate rises. So if you look on the kind of the second to last page in this portfolio, it's the one that starts with step 3, rationale for buying corporate bonds. This one here, if you have it.
Be page 13 of your packet.
Page 13. So this chart right here kind of shows interest rate hikes since year 2000. At any time the interest rates are that low is a pretty bad time to go out on duration and take too much risk going longer on the curve. Right now, on the other hand, we believe it's a great time to buy corporate bonds, even though you are not able to directly through the Wyoming statute. But when they bought these bonds was right in the 2021, 2022 area where you see interest rates are close to zero. So that hike in interest rates, if people buy a bond 2 years ago paying 1% and bonds today are worth 6% hypothetically, that 1% bond's going to be worth a lot less, and that's where you saw the drop in Wildstar 2. So we think our proposal is a lot more short-term safety, it's liquid, and it really is it's based on your guideline in the IPS.
Thank you very much.
So my mom was a kindergarten teacher for like 20-some years, so I always try to speak in crayon. So the way that I always kind of explain that longer duration, or when you hear us saying duration or long maturity, think of it as a teeter-totter with interest rates on one side, the value of your bond on the other. Interest rates go up, value goes down, interest rates. Same thing on how far you go out. So if you look at that area, there was a period during COVID where every treasury that was sold from 2 months to 30 years yielded less than 1%. Never happened. I always wondered who was buying those bonds. We're starting to figure out who was.
Interesting.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for your time, Commissioners.
Thank you.
That explains.
First Interstate.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you again for the opportunity to present on behalf of First Interstate Bank this morning. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nick McNamee. I am the market president for the Casper market here in Natrona County, and I have with me today Sean Porter, who is the manager of our trust and wealth management team as well too. So,
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for letting us be here. My name is Sean Porter with First Interstate Wealth Management. I've been in the industry about 27 years, born and raised in Wyoming, lived my whole life here pretty much in Casper. Sorry.
in summary, I'm going to present a couple of options for you guys today. One that I call a temporary option that gives you guys an opportunity to evaluate all the information that you're digesting from the various people that are presenting for this investment strategy. It's a temporary solution. It's 6 months long. That's the letter that I provided for you guys. And the idea is that then we would allow you the ability and time necessary to develop an investment policy on behalf of the commission for this money, to consider and do full due diligence and communicate back and forth with the various parties that are presenting options to you guys for a long-term placement. So again, in summary, I'm recommending a temporary option and that give you time, a stepping stone for the ability to consider a full long-term placement. I'm going to go into the temporary option real quick first because I think it presents some great value to you. Really, the idea behind this was I realized commonsensically that there was some concern here and that this money came in pretty quickly for you guys. The date on that was actually June 9th, and it was deposited into effective county treasury checking accounts. Those are with First Interstate Bank. And in essence, there was concern around the fact that you guys needed to make an investment change, but we're really worried about the opportunity cost that was presented to you by it being placed in this checking account. Wasn't yielding you that much, and as a result, I'm presenting you a solution for that today in order to give you some time to consider this further. The solution I'm presenting to you, you guys are actually already in this product for other funds, but it is statutorily compliant. It's a conversion basically from your repo purchase account to a state, county, municipal money market interest account. And basically what it'll give you is an enhanced yield while you're doing this due diligence period for your investment policy of 4.94%. Interest is paid monthly, and it's really a very simple and easy conversion over during this time period. The rate, I will say, is temporary. It is good for 6 months. It is fixed for that period of time. The reason for that is because there is a very specific and unique set of market circumstances that are available right now that allow the bank to be able to offer this for the temporary period and give you this stepping stone and time forward. Really the market circumstances in play, there's several of them, but a big one is that we're in an inverted yield curve. So anybody that's in the fixed asset market, in the market for fixed asset products such as statutorily compliant investments that you guys are talking about, that other folks are pitching to you as well, those are in a weird circumstance where short maturities are yielding much higher than longer maturities. That's why it presents this unique opportunity for me to put our best foot forward here and earn you guys a strong yield, this 4.94%, while giving you time for a really strong due diligence period, and I'll let Sean go into that in just a second, but it gives you the ability to not rush in this decision. Anybody planning to place this much money really needs to be diligent in doing so, and I think it makes a lot of sense to do. That's what I'm recommending here. The last piece, as I talked with several folks, is that I openly had concerns with the fact that on June 9th that money went into the account. It was somewhat of a scramble, and as a result, I want to make a contingent offer to the county treasurer and the commissioners for the ability to retroactively yield against specifically that $95 million that was deposited on June 9th at the 4.94%. Basically, it would be a credit back to the county. And on roughly approximately $100 million here, 4.94% on a daily basis adds up very, very quickly. So that's as a courtesy that First Interstate is offering for the ability to be part of this negotiation process and investment placement process over the next several months. I would answer preemptively the fact that this conversion does not have any fee to it. There's no set amount. This is basically a conversion of your guys' operating checking accounts, your cash accounts. And so the typical fees that would be in place, their contingent fees, are offset by the balances in place. And so there is no fee for this conversion over. So I want to just provide a little bit of background. I was trying to get straight to the point for you guys there. But First Interstate is a organization that has been in Wyoming for 50 years. The Scott family out of Sheridan has been intricately involved in the entire Wyoming community. We remain very much committed to the community. Though we've grown over the years, we're now a $32 billion bank. We have plenty of assets to back this. We have plenty of assets to provide statutory compliance for these funds, and we know municipal banking services very, very well. We can do them well. But that said, one thing that sets us apart is that we are very strongly committed to the community. A great example for this is that over the last month or so, I've actually had the privilege of working with a grant program that was provided by the Federal Home Loan Bank of Des Moines, Iowa, of which we are a member. It's a program that was available to Wyoming community banks, and we were able to, through that, in summary, pass out roughly $143,000 to approximately 12 nonprofit organizations here in Natrona County, specifically geared towards helping affordable housing and low to moderate income individuals. I approached that grant program. It was a rapid process here in the first part of April, and our entire team worked very, very hard, including our foundation team, to provide a grant match and get 3-to-1 match from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Des Moines, Iowa, in order to be able to bring this money into the community, totaling that $143,000 figure. So I thought that was a big piece and good evidence. We're well aware of Amendment A and everything else, and I wanted to yield over to Sean just real quick with regard to the eventual plan and the goal of getting you guys placed into this once you have time to think, complete due diligence, and strongly consider the investment policy that you're going to practice. So go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, thank you. First Interstate Wealth Management, we're currently, we're in 14 states, but we're currently about a $10 billion management group. We currently handle 19 different municipalities identical to the Natrona County that we handle. Right now, it's about $650 million. About 10 of those are in the state of Wyoming. We're extremely familiar with the statute 9.4 or 9-4-831. Back in 2016, we actually had a seat at the table with that then State Treasurer Gordon doing some amendments to the to those statutes back in 2016. Our biggest thing today, we came with a short-term proposal with the hope of a long-term option later. But our biggest thing right now, I went through the article, or went through the provisions, is that section 9-4-831H, investment policy statement. That's something that I'm not too sure if you currently do have, but that's a big thing to us before we sit down and come with a full-fledged proposal, long-term proposal, is to really sit down with the county commissioners and come up with an investment policy statement, make sure everything is compliant to the state statutes, figure out what your liquidity needs, your time horizon, your risk tolerance, anything to that, and make a long-term play with an investment policy statement. One, to us, that's the core to this in managing these dollars, in the short term and then also in the long term. We have 12 portfolio managers up in our Billings office that are fully committed. That is all they do. That is all they do is handle these funds 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and are fully compliant with the Wyoming statutes, been very involved. Again, like I said, we have 10 of these in just not only 19 throughout the whole company, but 10 just in the state of Wyoming, exactly the same type. We manage currently a large portion of the city of Casper's money. Started that here, I believe, just in the last year, but we've had custody of those assets for a number of years. So this is something that we do well, and take a big commitment to managing municipalities.
Thanks, Sean, very much. So again, I guess the recommendation is that you guys take some time here. I think it's important to consider that investment policy. I'm going to just leave you with the one last metaphor. It's probably needless to say, but basically that drives the folks that can provide strong financial advice to you with a clear direction of where you want to go. The example that I would give is a metaphor. If you guys were doing estate planning for your family, you'd want to know and provide that advice to financial advisors based on your individual needs. someone graduating from college and starting a family is going to have individual needs different than somebody that's approaching retirement or in retirement. So us to come to you right now without having that information, not worked with you beforehand, would be, I think, a little bit preemptive and something that I encourage you to have diligence and be prudent upon moving forward. So with that, I'll close for sake of time and answer any questions that you have.
Quick question. With the APR at 4.94, what is a realized APR on that with compound interest?
I'm being told that it's APY, annual percentage yield on a deposit. That's how we quote that, and that is, in fact, the effective annual percentage yield, the APY.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Milne.
Thank you, Commissioner North.
If we take this route for the short term and roll it over into that account, you say there's no fees. At what time is that? Is there any lag time, or is there any restrictions on when we can pull the money out of the account if necessary?
Commissioner Milne, thank you for that question. So I'm going to answer that in two parts. Number one, basically these are funds that are fully liquid the way a checking account would be liquid. And so, no, there is no penalty for pulling these funds. It's a depository product that provides you that yield over time. Okay. The one thing I will clarify from my earlier presentation that you reminded me of there is that I provided the contingency of the look-back period, and I have to provide some guidance there that I'm not trying to rush into this by any means, but carrying that offer over through quarter end is something that is difficult to do for the bank, and that's why I say it's contingent. We would need word from the county treasurer, from you guys, for the ability to take advantage of that. The 4.94 stays in place no matter what, whether you guys do that next month or not in the month of July. But to capitalize on that, unfortunately, the market conditions that are in play are important. They are very volatile right now. This is the most volatile interest rate environment that we've been in probably in the last 40 years with regard to fixed income products in my experience. And with that said, so the offer for looking back to June 9th that I mentioned would need to be executed sometime this week. It can be done instantaneously. It's very, very quick, but it would be contingent upon it happening here in the second quarter before the close of business, basically tomorrow. So I apologize for the rush on that, but I communicated to some of you that fact earlier in the week, but yeah.
Further up, and I forgot to ask you all this question as well. Looking into your crystal ball and everything, from the interviews I've been watching and some comments that are being said by different Fed members, do you think the interest rate's going to go, if they're going to raise it again come July, or?
Right now, the Fed funds futures right now is projecting about a 25 basis point hike at the July meeting. Beyond that, we've started to see things maybe flatten out and possibly decrease at the end of the year. But yet, those are numbers of what's coming out today. Things will change. But right now, we are looking, the Fed futures, I believe, is a 75% chance that they're going to increase 25 basis point there in July.
And off of your guys' chart, it looked like you had a little spike there and then it flattened out. Is that about what you're seeing too?
Yeah, exactly what you said about consensus, yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lillard.
Are we getting interest on this money right now?
It's currently in what's called a repurchase sweep product, and it had been since June 9th when you deposited the funds, and it was yielding 20 basis points, 0.2%.
And that was the best you could give us when we deposited the money?
That's why I'm sitting here making the offer that I've made today, Commissioner Laird.
The Wyoming statute requires us to have a mission statement concerning our investment policy, and I'm looking at the other commissioners. Do we have that in writing? Is it on our website? Where is it being stored so that somebody could look at it? I mean, how would we know what it is? Because the statute absolutely requires we have one. They're raising their hands over here.
Yeah, we were sent that by the county treasurers. Nick Martinez sent us that, and it's a 3-page document that essentially refers back to the state statute, and the county has adopted that as be as restrictive as at least the state statutes state.
Commissioner Nicholas.
Thanks for being here today. Thanks for the conditional offer to retroactively allow us to earn interest at that 4.94 APY. My understanding, just to follow up on Commissioner Milne's question, is it sounds to me like you're willing to commit to 4.94 APY for a period of 6 months, but due to the liquidity of this investment, we're not committed to a lockdown period of that same duration. It's we can withdraw it or reinvest it with your firm or other firms at our discretion during this 6-month period.
Correct.
Commissioner Nicholas, and yes, that is correct. To provide a very clear date there, this would be available at a fixed rate on any yield, on any amount in that account until January 5th of 2024.
And I wanted to allow you the opportunity to speak to my question to the Stifel folks, which is in terms of diversification, what are your thoughts as you stand here today in front of us about placing the entire amount with your firm versus multiple firms versus having our treasurer manage a portion of that? And I guess I'm talking about not this temporary 6-month period, I'm talking about kind of the longer term and an overall strategy. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I think I'm going to probably echo what Stiefel said. I mean, we have multiple accounts that we have many money managers. The successful ones are communication and transparency between the firms. One, to make sure we're not duplicating, make sure that we're communicating, and that we're all working for the county's needs. Our particular accounts that we handle right now that our municipalities are all 100% handled through us. And we believe with that team of 9 to 12 different portfolio managers up there that we've got definitely the back support to handle no matter what other size accounts for diversification and any of the assets that we handle through that, so.
Mr. Chairman, one other question. First Interstate went through the RFP with the city of Casper last year, and the First Interstate was selected from amongst, as I understand it, numerous other firms. Do you know if the city of Casper placed with any other firms at that time, or were you the only outfit to be selected?
It is 100% with us.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Mill.
One more question. The 6-month with this account, with this temporary account, with it, if it was retroed back to June 9th, that would be the start date of that 6-month then at this point, or would, whenever we told you to roll it, would be this point of the 6-month?
Commissioner Milne, thank you for that question. The 6-month is, I provided clarity of June 5th of 2024, and even if we retroed back to June 9th, I'd be fine to honor the date of June 5th, 2024, that effective rate would be fixed on that account for that period of time.
Right, so the 6-month
Slightly
clock
longer.
would start at June whatever, or?
It would retro back to June 9th. Basically, we would memo credit the account. That's how we would provide that. But the answer is that the 6 months an approximate time frame, the effective rate would stay in place for that period of time between now or June 9th and then January 5th, 2024. So it's a little longer than 6 months, Commissioner Milne.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is that clear? Sorry.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Commissioners.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Okay, well, we'll end up having discussion on this, but I guess, does anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to accept the offer of First Interstate Bank to immediately transfer the funds from the current repo funds account to a money market sweep to take advantage of the APY discussed today, and to instruct our treasurer to authorize that immediately.
Second.
So I have a first, or a motion made by Commissioner Nicolason and a second by Commissioner Milne.
Did Commissioner Nicolason finish what he was going to do before it was seconded? I thought he was saying something, and then he lost the track of the last words he said.
I think he was done.
All right.
Okay, with first and a second, then I open up to discussion. Commissioner Milne.
Mr. Chairman, so I believe this is a good solution for short term. I don't feel that we currently have I don't have a warm and fuzzy with everybody that we have a solution for a long term. I think we need to potentially do a RFP for what we're going to do with that money in between now and then, at the end of the 6 months or sooner. I also think that, and after looking closer at our policy, I believe it would be a good idea to have a review of that policy and update it if necessary, keeping in mind what our goals are and what we want to do with this money, and to further what we can do. But that's basically all I've got, is we need to do those things.
Commissioner Nicolason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the firms coming in today. I appreciate the other firms that have reached out to us. I think that they are all excellent in many respects. I agree with Commissioner Milne. I think that we do need to look at our investment policy. I believe it's from 2018. We should look at that and revise it. I think we should also have an investment committee. I think that we are, the five of us, knowledgeable in some respects, but not knowledgeable in all of these respects. And I think that it would best serve our county to have a committee to evaluate, make recommendations, both with respect to the investment policy and with respect to an RFP, and moving forward to work with the treasurer in terms of making recommendations and working with whatever entity or firm or firms that we select. So I think that's a process that's going to take some months. I don't think can afford to allow it to take, much longer than that. I would hope that we could get it done in 6 months. So that's kind of how I see things moving forward, and I'm just one voice, though.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Milne.
I think I've discussed this with a couple of you, but yeah, I completely, just to reiterate in publicly or whatever, the idea that the county as a whole, we kind of dropped the ball a little bit on these funds, both in the past and currently. And as a solution, we do need to, I believe, form a committee of a couple people from the board, the treasurer, some select individuals with knowledge, potentially from that, outside sector, potentially, I appreciate the offer from First Interstate to help with that, with the policy, but for the board, in my mind, it would be potentially people that would be selected from the community that don't have a horse in the race, basically. So I just agree with Peter on setting that up.
Commissioner Laird.
Well, I heard two different completely different proposal. So we didn't hear from, I always pronounce your firm wrongly. Is it Stiefel? Stiefel.
Stiefel for the people. We're the people.
That you guys didn't actually present anything about if we deposited the money with you now, what would you give us interest in the manner of which First Interstate said? So I didn't hear that. I heard you giving a plan. The issue with First Interstate is we're going to give you a better interest rate, one that I wish they would have given us from the beginning anyway, and that we will work on this, because I do agree with Commissioner Milne that we need to investigate this further and look at different possibilities. I'm concerned about this resolution. I asked if there's one exists. I didn't get one answer until this morning, that there was this resolution, and I see where the attachment, whoever prepared that didn't sign it. So I don't know if there's one, Madam County Attorney, that's signed. Because I'm concerned about that with respect to what happened to our money with Wildstar 2. So it's not necessarily currently, because I do believe, and I agree totally with Commissioner Milne, that we need to revisit this particular resolution and get some good advice and remodel it before we do make a complete investment of this money. So you're raising your hands, Mr. Chairman, they're raising their hands. Are they allowed to say anything more?
Sure, if you have something you want to add.
Mostly just a point of clarity on the initial cash option.
So on page number 10, our initial cash option yields about 5.22%. Clearly, we don't have the retroactive ability, but it does yield 5.22. And to answer Mr. Milne's question earlier to them, 20 million of that is in ultra short term. You can ask for cash, we can get it to you the same day. 80% of that is in a little more treasuries. And then Dallas, Paul Bertolio did sign an IPS in 2019, and that IPS strictly relates back to Wyoming Statute 9483.
Okay, thank you. I'd never seen it before, and I asked about it, but this is the first time I've seen it. So, and I assumed it would probably be similar to just the statutes itself, because it's contained in the Commissioner's Manual that we get from the Wyoming Commissioners Association, and how important they feel that is. So, but nevertheless, I still agree with Commissioner Milne that this probably needs to be revisited and revised, because this loss of $4 million disturbs me greatly. And I guess these things happen in this business, but I haven't settled my mind on why that money was lost. And you guys did add to that discussion and enlighten me on some things. I was reading to you from my cell phone a statement by Troy Hunsucker, who is also wanting us to invest with the product that he represents, and I thought he gave a very nice explanation of all of this. But so the issue here for me is with First Interstate Bank wanting to now up the ante with the interest, which is something, gentlemen, I think you should have given us to begin with on this kind of money. But I think right now I am not ready to make a decision on any kind of long-term investment. I like the idea that I have some time, gives you gentlemen time to rethink your positions as well, because the way I'm hearing it is the commissioners want to investigate this further, and I agree with that totally. I mean, because I think that the original go-around on this, there probably wasn't much of an investigation. I wouldn't have known whether you should have bought bonds back in 2020 without asking gentlemen like you either. And so it's obvious to me how we can lose $4 million if we don't know what we're doing. And I don't want to be on a commission that invests money and then has to say I really didn't know what I was doing. And so if you're going to create a board, I think the entire commission should be on the board. I don't think this should be allotted to one or two commissioners. I think this is a foundational situation. And I certainly would not support just two commissioners on a board. I think that all commissioners should be on this board, and it should be dealt with publicly just like this. And so that's my personal feelings.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Nicholas?
Thank you. And just to follow up, Commissioner Laird, I wasn't proposing that a investment committee have significant authority to make investment decisions. I thought I used the word recommendations, just like a lot of other boards we have. I think that finding people who are specialists in this area serve better not only the public, but the commissioners. And so that's how I would envision it. I guess that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, the only comments that I'm going to make on it is, we do, obviously, the funds right now in the account they're sitting in are not making us any profit or any money back right now. So with that being said, I'm in favor of keeping it at First Interstate, moving it to the other account that we discussed here today. That's a short term. We've had 4, I think now, different groups that have come in and talked to us, and they all have their own plan on best ways to invest this money. And so I'm in agreement that I think, first of all, there needs to be a policy review. It's just like anything in the county, and a lot of things that we've seen in the county that have not been reviewed for quite some time. And so I think we need to make sure that we are in line with where we need to be at as far as our policies go. And then I do truly believe that we go to ask for proposals to be put together by all these individuals and have a committee to sit down and figure out what the best route is to go with these funds and who, whether it's a single group or multiple groups that are used to invest this money. But that's my personal opinion on it. The committee, we can figure that out, and we will figure that out, just like reviewing a policy. We'll figure out the best framework for that to be put together and who's actually going to be sitting at the table on that one. Those are my opinions on it. Any other comments?
I just asked for the question.
Okay. So with all that in mind, all in favor of moving the funds as the motion was made by Commissioner Nicolason, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion moves forward. So we will, short term, keep it in First Interstate, move it over to the account that was discussed here today. And then we'll move forward with these other recommendations as far as policy review and have a proposal put out. I appreciate both groups coming in today and look forward to proposals here in the near future. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, everybody. Appreciate it. This is valuable information both of you presented. Thank you.
Commissioner Doyle was in, or sorry, Treasurer Doyle was in.
I don't know the explanation now.
Okay, we got 2 other items we're going to take care of here real quick. Oh, go ahead. That investment policy, that's Peter's.
I thought that was a copy.
No.
Can I get a copy of it?
I have a copy, Commissioner, for you.
Is that one, you don't have it marked? You want a new one or this one? Thank you.
These are things here.
Investment forms to sign.
think we're just approving it so that we can get it over to the city, because they're, yeah.
Are
Yep.
you here to talk about this item C, the GEO reentry, or is there any additional information on that?
I don't have any extra information on it. Yeah, I just showed up to say hello.
Okay.
Well, glad you're here, as always.
That's still, just something from the commissioner.
I don't know if you need that receipt from us.
We're going, we got two more items, the bollards across the street.
Yeah.
I got mine off.
Yeah.
Remember?
I know, I sent you.
I'll get the stuff,
Okay, all right, so we're gonna move on so we can get this portion done, because some of us have things we gotta get done today other than this. So, letter B is the amendment number 1 to revocable license agreement for installation of the protective bollards. This is the bollards across the street. We're just simply needing this, to sign off on this contract. The city is, this is prepared by the city, correct, Heather?
Yes, Chairman Friel, Commissioners, yes, this amendment was prepared by the city, and I'm sure Tom has more information and can answer specific questions if you have them, but this replaces, I think, the initial plan to use protective bollards. Instead, we're going to put in more decorative planters, and Exhibit A has the measurements and the proposed layout there.
Okay. And Tom, with that in mind, obviously you reviewed the placement of them. Is that where you were
Correct.
thinking they were gonna go?
Correct. I'm actually the one that laid those out.
Okay,
And then we had to resubmit to the city for the planters as opposed to the bollards.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, Tom, has this been done in coordination with the, our state court system and the security? I know that Chief Justice Fox is coming to town on June 14th, and court security, I think, is one of the main topics. So do you know if they've been involved in this aspect of the project?
What I know is dealing with, talking to Hoffman yesterday, this has been something that's gone on since 2014. And it died every time I got to the city. So once I got here, went through the bollards, what they had laid out wasn't the correct amount. It didn't do the entire building. So at that point, I laid it out. We had, I think there was 36 bollards total, as opposed to 14 that was originally drawn. And it was the city that mandated how we did it, where we put them, dimensions, with their city engineer actually laid that out. So moving forward, my personal opinion was a bunch of yellow bollards down Center Street wasn't going to be very attractive. So since it was our building, I started moving forward on this planner. Found, I think our total number is 30 planners, which is going to start where the Masonic Temple ties into the Townsend. And then it's 4 foot. Now this is their layout. This isn't mine. So you got 4 foot for ADA compliance. Anybody, which being a curb, they can't get there anyway, but we still have to maintain that. And then the other dimension we had was from the curb edge back 2 feet. And then a total off the curb was 30 inches, and I still had to maintain, I think it was 67 inches from the building to the edge of whatever I did. So when I initially started laying this out to the bollards of the past of 2014, the road is not straight. The road actually goes back to the south and east. So the city engineer's layout was not correct. So I'd worked with the city, I can't even tell you, a year and a half, trying to get it rectified, doing away with the bollards, going to the planters. But to answer your question, I am not aware of any state conversations, it's all been with the sheriff's deputies and what they're looking to do. So, you know, these bollards are 1,350 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark with nothing in it. County maintenance is gonna fill it, we're gonna plant it, we're gonna maintain the flowers within it. Basically, the city had nothing to do with any of it, other than some sort of direction of what they're looking for.
Tom, how, from a maintenance, for your maintenance, snow removal in particular, do you just not plow in between the planters?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. What we'll probably end up doing, so technically, they're not supposed to cross the street other than at a crosswalk. We still get it. You know, where the ramp goes up on that northwest corner, I do, run a plow blade through there to get it opened up when they cross. So I think we'll still maintain that. Blade's still gonna, you know, that was another part. On the county side, I had to maintain a plow width. Otherwise, we were dead in the water that way.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Milne?
Thompson, the city is good with this. They've signed off on the plan and all that. So,
That amendment that you guys are looking at is what we were trying to get rectified because they drew it as bollards. Changing to the planters, we had to rewrite the amendment per them, which took us forever to do that, to get them to okay it. And my assumption is that it has been approved by the city.
No, not quite. It's got to be approved at the July 5th meeting by the city council, is what the manager advised me.
So
But it's
do you
been
think we
signed
can
off on by the
eventually
city
move forward
attorney.
on this thing if we do get city's blessing? I mean, it's been a project and works
And
for
I budgeted for it. That money was there. And I actually started moving forward with it probably January, February, and at that time, my ship date, they would have been here right now. So give you kind of an idea of where we're at. So, you know, being realistic, they're not gonna get here until probably fall, if I ordered them now.
ridiculous.
Commissioner Milne, the reason that this is on here today is because the city does anticipate signing off next Tuesday. So that's why we brought it here today, so that we approve it prior to going over there, so.
Yeah, this was discussed at our meeting, and so I called the city manager to find out where the hangup was. And so about a week later, he called me, advised me where it was, and that they thought they could get it straightened out. So it's being straightened out, and thank you, Mr. Poplick, and everybody's finally, and Sheriff, it's finally time to get it done. So I would move this document be signed so this can go forward.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Laird? That's a motion by Commissioner Laird. Do I have
I'll
a second?
second that.
Second by Commissioner North. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then item C is the approval of the letter of GEO Reentry Services. This is the education company that we had that line item in the budget that we were discussing, and the contract was coming to an end June 30th, and this letter is just saying that they want to renew.
Mr. Chairman, just as a note, you'll need to sign this document that we just passed.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay, because it doesn't have your name on it, but we're the licensee, so.
Yeah. So do I have a motion by anybody on this, and then we can go into discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just say that ordinarily, I don't like letters or letter agreements that basically are an agreement to agree, and Commissioner Laird will understand that sometimes those are not enforceable. You'll see that it's, I think, just a placeholder. I guess I'm okay with that unless the sheriff has any comments or concerns. Otherwise, I'm seeing you're not standing up, Mr. Sheriff, so I'm going to go ahead and, well, he is standing up now.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nick Lason, thank you. You know, as I mentioned before, we don't have any direct involvement in this. It's kind of an agreement with the county to allow the courts another option with placing misdemeanor people, gives an option. It's my understanding that we don't use this much, if at all. So it is an option. I think it's okay to have it out there. It gives the courts that flexibility. But as far as an agreement, I would imagine by reading this that they want to follow up with an actual contract. So as long as there's not a commitment to provide a dollar amount, it's only contingent on actually placing somebody out there, I think that's more than acceptable.
Does anybody know what this costs us by any chance? Or has cost us? I have no knowledge of anything about it other than this letter.
We've allocated, but they're not using it, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Isn't that this one?
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I believe this fiscal, we've expended $4,000 to $6,000 on this particular service. I'm not exactly sure of the amount, but it's been minimal this fiscal year.
What do they actually do?
Commissioner Laird, I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Laird, so this is in lieu of being incarcerated at the detention center, individuals that serve their sentences and work, they can stay out there, they can still report to work, but they stay out there during the term of their sentence. I know in municipal courts, that's an option. The defendants typically pay for it, but in this circumstance, I think there's times where the county will pay for it for certain defendants.
Does this apply to juveniles?
No, it does not.
Yeah, it's just not very clear. I agree with Mr. Nicolais, and I don't really like the letter that agrees we're going to do something, but I don't know what it is we're going to do. If they had have attached a copy of the contract to it, it might have been more understandable.
I will say it's my recollection that the county enters into this contract every year and has for several years. And I'm sure we'll have a contract forthcoming. If you decline to do this letter of intent, I mean, we can still present a contract for your consideration as well.
Mr. Chairman, well, do you have a recommendation in that regard? Do we just say, yeah, send us the contract, we'll look at it, but not move forward on this letter of intent today? Or do you think we should go ahead and do this? Because I could go either way.
I think that's your choice, although I'm certainly fine if you decline to sign this today and would just prefer to see the terms of the contract before you make a commitment. I don't think that's a problem at all.
I'd actually prefer to see a contract and not sign this letter.
Okay.
Good reasoning. I just, when people say you've done this year after year after year, seems like year after year it could have been a mistake, and it's time to stop that now, so I'm glad these guys agree, and I think we should see the contract first. Thank you.
Any other comments? Right, so I suppose we need to make a motion to not sign this and have a contract sent to us,
So
or not,
the motion was
or just let it go.
to approve it, is that correct?
We don't need to take it up.
Or was there a motion? Okay. Or there can be if there is no motion,
I guess there's just direction at this point in time not to sign this
yeah,
and
or a motion
bring
not
us
to
a
approve this
contract.
letter.
Just get the contract and put it back in front of us. I say it'd be the way to go.
Okay, so we have no other items for the special agenda, so I would, unless anybody's got anything else on this, I move that we go into adjournment. Yeah. Yeah.